right. Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us for CleanFacts's latest webinar, the 2021 Marketing Blueprint for Cleaning and Restoration. I am the CleanFacts Managing Editor, Amanda Hosey, and I'll be moderating today's presentation. Just a quick note about our magazine. CleanFacts is the industry's only dedicated print publication for both cleaning and restoration, and we offer practical solutions for contractors in the industry. In addition to our flagship print magazine, we also offer regular digital content, newsletters, online exclusive articles, and a lot more. You can visit us at cleanfacts.com to subscribe to the magazine and newsletters, and be sure to connect with us on social media. Before we get started, just a few things to keep in mind. We encourage you to submit questions at any point during today's program in the Q&A box on your screen. Our panelists will answer as many questions as time allows during the Q&A section after the presentations. Your audio will be automatically muted to avoid any interruptions, and all of you will receive a recording of today's webinar by email, and the recording will also be available on cleanfacts.com early next week. Thank you all for attending, and let's get things underway. First up today, we'll hear from Sonny Ahuja. He's the owner of Kill It Online. Sonny is a certified Google partner and an online lead generation expert who specializes in high conversion, responsive websites, optimized mobile sites, Google Ads, and SEO. He mainly works with restoration and cleaning companies to help them get more leads by developing lead generation systems. Later in the program, we'll hear from Braun, owner of Hitman Advertising and author of the #1 best-selling book, Killer Advertising for Cleaning Businesses. He regularly speaks at industry events and coaches cleaners to create better marketing strategies. And just before we get started, before we hear from Sonny, we want to quickly poll the audience. You should see a question on your screen now. We'll just take a moment for everyone to put in their responses. All right, let's move on to our first presentation from Sonny Ahuja. You can start whenever you like, Sonny. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. This is Sonny Ahuja. Thanks for having me, Amanda, Jeff, everybody at CleanFacts. So I'm looking at the poll results. 26% yes, 16% no, 40% not as much as it should be. So, and 18% I'm not sure. That's pretty much what I hear. So thanks for being here. Getting into search engine optimization, and I'll keep it. We have limited time, so this will be a fast presentation. A little bit about me. I am WRT certified with ISSA because I wanted to get to the bottom of this industry. I'm a search marketing specialist, and I've been working with cleaning and restoration companies for almost 10 years. This August, it'll be 10 years. So for 10 years, I have been working with SEO, PPC, high conversion website design, and so on, and working with PPC and SEO for several businesses in our industry. We've spent over 10, maybe $12 million. And so there's a lot I have learned, which is what I'm going to share with you today. So here's what happens. When I go to seminars or I speak with cleaning or restoration professionals, and we often talk about SEO, one of the first things that I ask them is what kind of results are you getting right now, whether you're doing it yourself or you are outsourcing it. More than 70% of businesses I speak with usually tell me that they're not getting the results that they should be getting or that they're happy with, which means although they're doing SEO, it's not really working for them. So then I get into the reports that they send me from other companies or things that they've been doing themselves. And we analyze those reports, we analyze their websites. Now, working with SEO myself and checking out reports, or let's say analyzing other companies, in past few years, we've put together a 6-step system, a 6-step process which if you follow, you should get better results with your SEO. So here's what happens. When we analyze those websites, one of the biggest factors that we find out the SEO is not working for these companies is because those websites do not meet the technical requirements of search engines. So in our 6-step process, step 1 is making sure that your website is technically sound. It meets the requirements of all the search engines, especially Google. So what is technical SEO? Technical SEO is making sure that your website can be crawled by search engines, making sure it's user-friendly, making sure it's mobile optimized. What happened a few years ago, Google announced that the websites that do not meet its mobile optimization requirements will not be on page 1. So let's say if you've been working with search engine optimization, but your website is not mobile friendly, it's not mobile optimized, no matter what you do, no matter how much money and time you spend, it will not be on page 1 of Google. So before you get into everything else, you want to make sure that your site, your website meets the technical requirements. Otherwise, it gets frustrating. You may spend 6 months, 1 year doing SEO, you will not get any results. So before you get that far, people run for backlinks and keywords. Before you go that far, make sure your site meets all the technical requirements of Google, Yahoo, and Bing, and then start with the SEO process. So that's why I call it step 1. Very important to have a solid foundation for your search engine optimization strategies, okay? Now, step 2, once we have made sure that the site is technically, it meets all the requirements, that's when we get into step 2, which is where the fun begins. This is the keyword research that you must do regularly for your search engine optimization strategies. Google says that 20% of all searches are done for the very first time on Google. So what you're seeing today may not be the same tomorrow. The search phrases will change. And as people talk more and more with these gadgets, I might be talking to Alexa. If I'm talking to Alexa, I will search differently. For example, if I go on computer, if I go to google.com, I might search for carpet cleaning. But if I'm talking to Alexa, I might say, hey, Alexa, find me the nearest carpet cleaning company that's open on Sundays. See, now your search phrase absolutely changed. So when you do keyword research, you want to make sure that the search phrases that you're working with are long tail, they have less competition. For example, if you are working with, let's say, carpet cleaning, search phrase, is your keyword carpet cleaning near me, carpet cleaning services, carpet cleaning business, carpet cleaning Atlanta, carpet cleaning Chicago, the name of your city, steam cleaning, who provides carpet cleaning, and so on and so forth. So having the right keywords from the very beginning is important. And here's why. I've known businesses that started their search engine optimization without spending enough time on their keyword optimization or finding the right keywords. When they spent 6 months and they brought their website on page 1 of Google, in wrong search phrases, that did not help them get business. That did not help them generate leads. So all that hard work they put for 4 months or 6 months. So I was saying, get search phrases that are long tail keywords. You need to make sure that the keywords you're working with are the ones that will actually bring you business once your site ranks high in those search phrases. And not just your own keywords. You also want to make sure, you should make sure you also analyze keywords of your competitors. You need to know what they are doing. You need to see what keywords are they working with. Find the websites that are already on page 1 of search engines in Google in your area, in your search phrases, and then you can spy on them, see what they are working with, what kind of keywords, what kind of long tail keywords they are working with, and so on. So make sure you start with the right search phrases. You need to spend some time, and you can find keywords through Google Search Console, Moz, SEMrush. There's a lot of tools out there. So Right keywords is step 2. And so right keywords is step 2. Now moving on to step 3. Once you have your website that meets technical requirements, that was step 1, the right search phrases, you've already made a note of them. Now you get into on-page optimization. And on-page optimization means that you are optimizing the landing pages of your own website for higher rankings. The good thing about on-page optimization is this is your own website. So you have total control on it. You have control over landing pages. You have control over in links, internal linking, the images that you upload, and so on and so forth. So when you do on-page optimization, that means you are optimizing every single landing page of your website for higher rankings. If you have a page, let's say if you provide 7 different services, carpet cleaning, rug cleaning, upholstery cleaning, tile and grout cleaning, and so on. You need to have a page on each service that you provide, and you need to optimize that each page, every single page for every single service for your area. So if you are, let's say, in Schaumburg, near Chicago, or in Chicago, then you need to optimize your landing page for, if it's carpet cleaning, then for carpet cleaning services in Schaumburg. So every single page, every single service that you provide has to have its own landing page so you can optimize it. And this is just one of the things that I can mention, but there's 20 other things, other strategies that fall into on-page optimization. But the beauty of it is you control it, you can make changes to it, you can change the copy based on your new search phrases, you can change the copy based on the results you're getting, and so on and so forth. So on-page optimization, of course, is something that you can work with your copywriter or somebody in your own office. Now, step 4, here's when the backlinks come into place. When I meet with businesses in seminars or when I talk to them, first thing they always ask me when it comes to SEO is, Sonny, how do we get more backlinks? While backlinks is not the most important thing or not the most important strategy to get on page 1 of search engines, at least until you have everything else in place. If you start working on backlinks, and backlinks take time, they're not easy, especially you must get backlinks from authority websites. Stop paying people to build you backlinks from places like Fiverr or Freelancer and so on. Stop paying $50 for 500 backlinks because that only backfires. Those backlinks are not good. They are spammy backlinks, right? So no spam here. Get backlinks from authority sites. But backlinks will only work if and only if your website has the right kind of structure, if it's mobile optimized and so on, if the on-page optimization is in place. So backlinks is not something you work with right away. And for backlinks, you can reach out to authority sites. You can do some writing for other websites. You can reach out to your local media, which are the authority sites. They might do a story on you. You can build citations. So for backlinks, you can use Google My Business. You can use Facebook business pages, LinkedIn profiles, LinkedIn business pages, Twitter, and so on. So those are citations. Here's another thing about citations. Make sure you follow the NAP requirement, which is the name, address, and phone number. It should be same at every single backlink or every single citation you build. So let's say if you have a Facebook business page, LinkedIn business page, Google My Business page, Yelp listing, you must make sure that your address, name, address, and the phone number are same, exactly the same. I do get people, who tell me, Sonny, but we need to have tracking numbers so we can track if you're getting more calls from Yelp or Google My Business and so on. That makes sense. Yes, you should track that. But some of these platforms, for example, Yelp will let you have 2 phone numbers. One, which is your real business number for NAP, and then you can have a tracking number separately, which is what your prospects will see. So you can then use tracking numbers in that way on these websites. So it's not interfering with your NAP requirements. So again, with citations, with backlinks, you must make sure that you are building them from authority sites and not paying people or not paying companies that will build 1,000 links overnight or 100 links overnight using softwares and so on, because they don't work anymore. They used to work 6-7 years ago, but now Google catches up to it and will throw your site on page 100. Okay, so that was step 4. Now, step 5. This is very important. Of course, most businesses understand the requirement of adding a blog post to their site, on a weekly basis, let's say. Now, here's what happens. The reason we need blog posts. Let's say if you have 7 different pages on your website, one for each service that you provide, you can't really go on adding more content to those pages, right? If you have a page on carpet cleaning services, you cannot add more content to that page. You've already mentioned your service. You've already talked about it. So now you need to add blog posts. One of the main reasons why we add blog posts is so the content on your website stays fresh. So every time Google comes back, every time search engines crawl your site, they find something new. If search engines will not find anything new on your site, they will stop indexing. They'll stop recrawling your site, which means now it'll start losing its rankings. So that's something important about blogging. The second thing, when you write blog posts, make sure they add value, which means people learn something from it. For example, you can have a post, 7 ways to remove vine stains from your oriental rugs, okay? So when people see those, when your prospects, when your visitors will see that kind of a blog post, they'll read it, they might share it on their social media profiles, right? Because it makes sense. It will also have keywords that you are working with. So how to remove stains from rugs or oriental rugs can be one of your major long tail keyword, and you can have a blog post to that effect. So when you write blog posts, make sure they add value. Make sure they have headlines, they have subheadlines, a good word count. So people ask me, Sonny, how long should be a blog post? A good word count is about 1,200 words right now. So it's hard to write 1,200 words. Yes, it's not a 2-paragraph blog post anymore that works, but it's worth your time. So write blog posts that are long, minimum 1,200 words, and make sure they are keyword optimized, they add value, and so on and so forth. So when you have these 5 steps in place, okay, you'll start seeing that your website starts increasing in its rankings. It'll go from page 2 to page 1 fairly quickly if you follow these 5 steps. But here's what happens, which I would say is the most important part of any marketing that you're doing, whether you do PPC, SEO, or anything else out there. Even if you're sending out cards, if you're doing radio, television, whatever, you need to measure conversions. In this case, you need to measure backlinks. So that would be step 6, which is the most important part of your entire marketing. You need to look for what's working for you and what's not working for you. You need to find, so let's say if you're building backlinks, you need to find those backlinks and see which ones are actually bringing you business. Which search phrases are you ranking high in? Which landing pages of your website are ranking high? Which blog posts are ranking high? If you don't know that, then how would you work continuously on your marketing strategies? For example, let's say you have a blog post on carpet cleaning, another blog post on tile and grout cleaning, and maybe a blog post on basement water removal because you also provide water damage restoration services. You need to know which blog post is working the best, which one is bringing you the most business, most visitors, most phone calls. The one that's working well for you, you can learn from it. You can see, why is this working really good for me while carpet cleaning, let's say, is not working good. So you can make changes moving on in the future. So tracking conversions, tracking phone calls, tracking your rankings. You can even track the areas that are bringing you business. You can track zip codes that are bringing you business. So let's say if you're working in 10-mile radius from your office, maybe you have 3 cities that are in about 10-mile radius. When you track conversions, you will be able to see which zip codes, which cities are bringing you business. Because if you don't know what's really working for you, how do you move forward? How do you optimize your marketing campaigns? And so again, these were the 6 steps that are very important when it comes to SEO, because if you don't follow these steps in this format, you will not get results. And I'm telling you this from my experience working with this industry for almost 10 years. Now, I do have an in-depth training on this, which this was, we had like 20 minutes, but that is about a 90-minute training. In that 90-minute training, I get into how to find keywords of your competitors, how to spy on them, and then I get into detail with these 6 steps, and I share a lot more strategies. So feel free to watch that training when you have the time. Like I said, it's about 90 minutes. Watch it from your laptop, and it's on highprofitseo.com. So I hope that was helpful. In the end, I think after this webinar, we'll have a Q&A session. Let me know if you have any questions, and I'll be happy to answer those for you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sonny, for that presentation.
Sure.
And I'm sure there are questions from the audience. If you have a question, you can just drop it in that Q&A box, and we will try to address as many as we can at the end. And I also wanted to thank all of you for coming back with us after that little blip, and I do apologize for it. We have another poll for you up here before we move on. You can click your answers now, and we will shortly move on to Mr. John Braun. All right, so we will have the results of that in just a second. We will continue with our second presentation from John Braun, and there's the results. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Amanda. I appreciate all that you're doing with educating the cleaning and restoration industry. This stuff is very, very important. And Sonny, that was dead on. Everything that you said, I learned a couple things myself. Good stuff. Thank you for that. So we're going to talk about dominating your neighborhood, picking the neighborhood and dominating it for both cleaning and restoration. How do you become the neighborhood cleaner? How do you become the company of choice? I chose this picture, and Jeff Cross gave me a little bit of a hard time saying that it's my high school picture. Not too far from high school. Actually, I started my cleaning company out of college. And basically, I just wanted to start a business. I was studying advertising. I majored in advertising, and I basically wanted to start a business, and I did some research, and I'd worked for a carpet cleaning company before, so I figured I'd start a carpet cleaning company. And I love this picture because when I look at it, it reminds me of that initial struggle to get new clients. And if you're new in business, you know exactly what I mean. It's tough to get new clients in the beginning, but I can clearly remember driving through high-end neighborhoods and picking out that neighborhood and putting it as a goal to be the neighborhood cleaner. And at first, some of those neighborhoods seemed like they were just pie in the sky, like there's no way I could really be the guy who's doing all of these homes, but it happened. And I remember one neighborhood in particular where a county commissioner lived there, a very prominent attorney, a surgeon, guy who owned one of the biggest carpet retailer stores in town, all lived in that neighborhood. And I cleaned for almost everybody in that neighborhood eventually. And it was through doing what we're going to be talking about right now. Can we go to the next slide? So really, there's 2 ways of doing neighborhood marketing through offline marketing, and it's going to be through every door direct mail. I've talked about that quite a bit. I've got a report on that I'll give you guys the link for in just a little while, but we've talked about that. That's kind of a newish thing for the United States Postal Service. There's similar programs in the UK and in Canada, by the way. But every door direct mail is great, and there are often times where we do that, but often also almost just as much, if not sometimes more, just a radius targeting where we do 5 around the home that you just clean for, or 10 around, or 50 around, or we only target certain zip codes with certain criteria of maybe there's a good neighborhood next to a bad neighborhood. In those cases, you might not want to do EDDM. So what I want to do is get into the ins and outs of both of these types of programs and help you guys decide what's good for you for which program that you are going to want to market to. Next slide. Okay, first let's talk about EDDM. And I've talked about this quite a bit. Again, EDDM sometimes is the best way to go, but a little bit of ins and outs, so we're going to talk about that. It's fairly easy to do. The neat thing is you can do it yourself. You don't need a bulk mail permit. All you have to make sure that you're doing is make sure that you have the right size. This is important. It can't be a small postcard. The 4x6 inch postcard is not big enough. Even an 8.5 by 5.5 inch postcard, not big enough. So it needs to be at least 6.25 by 8 inches, and it can be a large postcard as big as 12 inches by 15, which is just a huge postcard. But that's the neat thing. A lot of the times we'll do an 8.5 by 11 or an 8 by 10 inch postcard. So it's a huge postcard that stands out from almost anything else that you've got inside the mail. And almost, I like to say, send a big enough postcard to where it falls out of the mailbox and hits your prospect on the toe, right? They can't miss the thing. So make sure it's the right size. When you actually print it, you have to make sure that you have the right insignia on the actual mailer. You need to have the EDDM insignia. A lot of the times you can say residential customer or local postal customer, and then that ECR, WSS, EDDM, that sometimes needs to be in there. There's a couple of ins and outs about how that works, but make sure that you're getting the right insignia. It's not rocket science, but make sure that you're getting the right insignia whenever you're doing that mailing. And then when you get them printed, you stack them up in stacks of 100, put a cover sheet on each stack, which is probably the largest amount of work. It might take you an hour to do if you're sending out 2,500, something like that. And then take it down to your local post office and mail it out. But you don't need a bulk mail permit. You don't need anything special. Anybody can do it. Any business can do it. Any person can really do it. Next slide. And then what you'll do after you actually get the mailers, you'll go in, or you could do it before if you'd like to, but you really should go in at some point if you're entertaining the idea of doing EDDM. Google United States Postal Service EDDM program, and you'll come up with this link that leads you right to a spot where you can pick mail routes. Now, this is sort of where we get into the kind of the technical part of the USPS system, right? They do this by the mail route. And what happens is this isn't just a zip code. Usually in a mail route, there's usually between maybe 120 and 300 homes inside of a mail route, and it varies, right? And so you need to go in and you need to pick out the mail routes that you want to do business with, that you want to connect with. And you need to figure out, the biggest thing is do you want to market to everybody in that mail route? Because it's not a zip code. You can't really pick demographics. The only thing that you can really pick is whether or not you're going to mail to businesses or not in that mail route. So you can have that in or out. If you want to mail to businesses, great, which I recommend that you probably do. Just why not? There's usually, depending on the area, not that many. Now, if you're in a commercial environment, there might be areas where, if you know of high commercial areas where you can just market to businesses this way, or primarily businesses this way too, for really, really cheap. And again, it's a bigger postcard for less money in printing, or for postage. So sometimes that's a beneficial thing. So go in, play around with this, pick out your mail route. But the big thing that you want to look for is make sure that you want to market to everyone in that mail route. If there's a good neighborhood next to a bad neighborhood, it's probably not for you. If there's an apartment complexes and you're not the type of cleaning and restoration company that wants to market to apartment complexes, you probably don't want to do that mail route. You probably want to go with the radius targeting, which is the next thing that we're going to talk about. Next slide. Okay, just before we get into the specifics of radius targeting, just going to show you some ins and outs and examples of different EDDM pieces. This is one that we did that we would market to neighborhoods right after a hurricane, right after a big flood. My cleaning company that I had for 22 years was located in Pensacola, Florida. So there we had bad rain. In fact, my area had some of the worst rain in the United States most years. And one time we actually, I think, got 26 inches of rain within 24 hours, right? So that's just one occasion. There were other occasions too, through near misses of a hurricane. Sometimes it wasn't even the hurricanes that were the worst. It was just the near miss where we got a ton of rain, right? So we would send these postcards out, especially to areas that were either near our shop. This is the great thing about neighborhood marketing, guys. You can pick and choose the neighborhood based on locality. One of the reasons why I even picked neighborhood marketing and wanted to do that more often was so that I could really hone in and really, when gas prices went up, I wanted to pick and choose the neighborhoods that I went to. I didn't want to drive all the way across town, right? I didn't want to have to, go do a small job and tell somebody that's going to be $250 to drive to their home for that small job. So I rather market to the areas near me. It's more convenient. It's better for the client. It's better for me. If I ever have a redo, they're super easy to get to. And so we would do that this way, even for water damage. Can you imagine if all your water damages were within a small area and or near your shop? This is great stuff, right? You can go and do the moisture checks really, really quick. So we would send these out, and I made probably over $100,000 with this postcard. I'm sure well over that. But by sending this out, we would get all sorts of jobs, and we would educate people about the dangers of water damage restoration. Next slide. Here's one that we would do often for just general cleaning. And again, not to everybody. Don't get bogged down with the 3 free gifts. Sometimes guys look at this and go, well, I don't want to give gifts out, or I don't want to give freebies out. And that's fine. If you don't want to do that, I do recommend that you do some type of a special offer. We won't get into all of the ins and outs, but I would recommend that you do something to give to particular neighborhoods that you really want to market to. Now, here's the thing to keep in mind. This does not go out to the general public. This goes out to specific key neighborhoods. There's stuff in this postcard that really, really calls them to make sure that they're a homeowner. I mean, it has to be to a homeowner. It has to be used within a certain date. And there are requirements normally on these. It's not just 3 freebies. There are requirements for them to do at least a minimum purchase. Now, in this case, if you notice the way these gifts are actually designed, they're designed to cross-sell our different services. So in other words, we're going to give them a small amount of carpet cleaning, a small amount of tile cleaning, and a free bottle of spot remover. Now, sometimes they'll call and go, well, I don't need any tile cleaning. Well, we're not going to replace that with another type of gift. They just either can forego it or they can just get it anyway. But the main thing that we'll tell them is we want to introduce them to our other services. We want them to know that we do tile cleaning. We want them to know you might even want to do upholstery cleaning instead, or whatever. Area rug can be a little bit sticky and kind of hard to do for a freebie, but we've done those as well too, where we didn't include like wool rugs and that type of thing. But get creative with this and think about using it to cross-sell your different services. We did this because we were mostly a carpet cleaning company, and a lot of people didn't know that we did hard floor. So we would always give away a free amount, not always, but on occasion to certain neighborhoods, we would give away a free amount of tile cleaning to show them what we could do. And sometimes they were surprised, and we'd end up, instead of just cleaning that small area, we'd end up cleaning all the bathrooms, or the bathrooms and the kitchen, or we'd end up cleaning and sealing the grout or recoloring the grout. But it was the introduction to the idea that we can do this and we can restore their tile and the grout. Make sure too that one of the really big things that called us apart in these type of EDDM pieces and neighborhood postcards. When I say EDDM, by the way, not just EDDM, what I mean is just a neighborhood postcard, because you can do this through EDDM program. That's just a program, the United States Postal Service, or radius targeting, which we're going to get into a little bit more in just a second. But we would go through, if we cleaned in a neighborhood that we really liked, we would go and we would get a picture of the front of the neighborhood. And sometimes I would stand in front of the neighborhood sign. Sometimes if we can get the company vehicle in front of the neighborhood sign, we would do that type of thing. And we would basically say, yes, that we're the neighborhood cleaner. Now, can you imagine if you lived in the North Crest neighborhood, if you got this postcard, could you ignore this postcard? Could this be something that you could just go, well, and not even know? You're going to look at this, right? Because how often do you get a picture of the front of your neighborhood inside of the mail? It just doesn't really happen, right? So catch that attention. And then the other thing too, is it's not just catching attention, it really goes into this whole theme, because if we're the neighborhood cleaner, wouldn't you agree that we probably, our van is in front of one of those signs, or the owner of the company is in front of one of those signs, or just a picture of one of those signs just even says, yes, we've been there, right? So super, super important to think about doing stuff like that. And we would even, the funny thing is we would send this not only to the Northcrest neighborhood, but the neighborhoods surrounding Northcrest as well, with the same exact postcard, especially if Northcrest was the higher end neighborhood, in the nicer neighborhood. Good. Next slide. Here we go. These are just a couple other offers that we did. An offer for in this case, I think it was for free cleaning, where we offered, I think it was the same type of offer actually in this point: free carpet cleaning, free tile cleaning, just worded in a different way. A lot of times we would change up just the appearance of the mailer, sometimes stick with the same theme. We just want to let them know, with always the same theme: you're our neighbors and we want to offer you something special because you're our neighbors. And then we would also do follow-ups with second chance and last chance, to put the stamp on that and say, hey, we've been marketing to you. And we also would theme our postcards based on the season. Like this, the one on the right is for spring. We would have holidays, postcards, that type of thing too, seasons, that type of thing. Next slide, please. Okay, a little bit more on EDDM, just kind of just to make sure that everybody understands kind of the basics here. There's no mailing list required. You can do it yourself if you'd like to. Very, very easy. You can also have companies do it for you. We do mailings like this for our clients, for my clients all the time. Printing on average, and again, it varies on how many you're printing, but it could be as little as 2 cents a postcard up to 8 cents a postcard. Postage, here's the great thing about EDDM: postage is cheaper than really any other mailing program that you can do, because it's a saturation type mailing. So postage is between 18 and 20 cents per home, which is great. Again, no stamping required, cheap postage. The only drawback is you have to mail to everyone in that mail route. So think about that. If you absolutely don't want to mail to everyone, if there's apartment complexes that you don't want to hit, then you probably want to do radius mailing. So let's talk about that. Next slide. You're going to target radius mailing by income if you'd like to. That is totally fine. All of the other things, by the way, that we just talked about as far as what the postcards look like, for the most part, that's the same type of thing that I would do for radius targeting. We're just going to have it in a little bit smaller postcard, but you can pick the income, you can pick the household value if you'd like. You can sometimes even pick, are they parents? Are they pet owners? And you can actually highly target and hone in on those type of things. If you'd like to, you can present a mailing list and say, hey, these are the people we cleaned for in the last 2 or 3 months. We want to mail to 5 people around that home. We want to mail to 10 people around that home, 50, 100 people, whatever you want to do. It's very, very adaptable based on a mailing list. Next slide, please. Now, the sizing, you can do over 6x11, but I don't recommend it. I recommend that you do up to size 6x11. You do need to do a mailing list. You need either buy a mailing list or work with the mailing list broker to get a mailing list. You can do it yourself if you'd like to, but you do need to have a mail permit. This is a little bit harder to do yourself, possible, but a little bit harder. The printing, about the same price, between 2 and 8 cents per home. Postage costs a little bit more, between 25 and 49 cents per home. But the great thing is again, you're pinpointing the specific people that you want to hit. A lot of the times when we do these for clients, you're going to spend about 45 cents per postcard for about a 6x11 or 6x9 inch. Those are 2 common postcards that we'll do. 45 cents altogether, with postage, handling, shipping, labeling, that type of thing. Now, it's easier because of the fact that you have to have a bulk mail permit. It's usually easier to do this through a service. So keep that in mind. You can do it yourself. We do offer services to be able to do this. There's other services out there too that do this. But normally, if you're going to do a radius mailing project, it's a little bit more sticky to do. So if you have gotten into the United States Postal Service and figured out that you don't want to market to everybody in that mail route, and/or you decide that you want to do mailing with the radius mailing, you probably want to hire out a service to actually have this part of it done. But it's very adaptable. Next slide, please. And here's some of the biggest recommendations that I can tell you for radius targeting. Send them in a sequence of 2 to 3 mailings. Don't just send out one mailing and call it a day, right? Really, with repetition does work a lot more with this type of mailing. You want to send it in a sequence of 2 to 3. Ideally, send the mailer out on a Monday, so that they get it on a Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday when they're more inclined to know that you're open. If they get it on a Saturday, they don't know that you're open. If they get it on a Friday, they're thinking about the weekend, right? They get it on a Monday, they're doing fresh business for the week, and it's usually a busy day. So I ideally send it out on a Monday so they get it during the week. Ideally personalize it like you saw with what I did. Use pictures of you, of your vans, of the front of your shop if you have one, of your employees, that type of thing, the front of the neighborhood that you're marketing to. But use those pictures. Those type of things draw attention, and they help to really show that you're a real company. And make sure that you use some of those sales triggers, some of those offers. Show credibility. That's some of the biggest misses that I see in a lot of marketing. There's no real credibility shown as far as saying, hey, here's why you should use us over Joe Blow, the cleaning company. Here's why we have a good reputation. Here's why we're going to charge you more than what the competition is going to charge you. Build up that value inside of your sales message. Next slide. And any questions that we have would be great to go ahead and address. We do have a free report that I wanted to give you guys too. They put the link up into the chat area. That's my free EDDM guide.
All right, thank you so much, John, for your presentation. We've gotten several questions already from the audience for John and Sonny to answer. To all of you still in the audience, feel free to submit any other questions you'd still like to ask. And so just getting started with the questions. What is an acceptable level of SEO searches for an emergency restoration company?
Hey, Amanda. So when you say acceptable level of SEO searches, if the person is looking for how many different search phrases would he be, is it okay to be on page one of, let's say, Google, then there's no number to that. Every single service you provide, let's say if you do water damage restoration, then you would have searches related to a basement water extraction if you're in Midwest or East Coast, sewage backup cleanup, burst pipes. All these searches, all these different searches will bring you the same results, same kind of job, same kind of business. So when you say acceptable level, there's no number to it, but the more search phrases you can rank high in, the better for your business, of course. And anything that's related to your service. Like I said, most people think water damage restoration, they forget that burst pipes, pipe leak, sewage backup, basement water extraction, they all lead to the same type of the job. So the more, the better.
Okay, all right, thanks, Sonny. Yes, this one's for John. How long does it take to get a good return on one of these campaigns?
I'd like to normally say that the first mailing that you do, if you're mailing, at least 1,000, a lot of the times you'll get some type of a return. And usually what I look for is at least a 3-to-1 return. In other words, for every $100 that you spend on marketing, at least $300 back. Every $1,000, at least $3,000 back. Normally, you can get that within the first mailing. Again, not always. With marketing, there's never any guarantees on any of that type of stuff, but normally you can. But the big thing is normally with this type of marketing, the longer you do it, the more that neighborhood really understands that you're there as a constant and you're branded well and you are the neighborhood cleaning company.
Okay, thanks, Sean. Sonny, how well do you see Google My Business working to support website searches?
That's a great question. So Google is all about Google, right? Google wants people to stay on Google. Google wants people to use different ways. Google will bring you search results. And now they have been heavy with Google My Business for the past couple of years. It's really important that you optimize your Google My Business listing. Even if you have your own website, even if you're working with your site, you can't overlook Google My Business. So one, when your Google My Business listing is optimized, you obviously get business from your listing itself. But then it also helps rank your website high as long as you have a link from your Google My Business listing to your website, as long as you add posts. So just like you add a post on Facebook, you can also add a post on Google My Business listing, on your Google My Business page. So Let's say if you put a blog post on your website, you can share it on Facebook, LinkedIn, but you can also do the same thing with your Google My Business listing. So now every time you share a blog post on your Google My Business page, you technically get a citation, you get a backlink to your website. So it's a domino effect. They both work and help each other rank high. So very important right now to optimize it.
Thanks. That's informative. John, where this is a bit of clarity. Where do we find the pick a mail route function for the EDDM
Sure.
post office site?
Yeah, first, I do have a link to that inside of that report that I gave you guys. That's a PDF report. The direct link is in that. So that's probably the quickest if you don't want to search for it, but you can also do a Google search probably for just probably EDDM USPS would probably be, and then go to it is the USPS government site, but there's a specific obvious part of that site that you need to find. It is in my report, or you could Google it. Just probably the mail route picker, EDDM might be the best thing to Google if you wanted to Google it.
Okay, thanks. Sonny, someone says they really liked your your presentation. It seems like the tips would apply equally to any type of company, but do you have any specific tips for cleaning companies?
Yeah, so that's absolutely right. Thank you. And that's absolutely right. These 6 steps technically can be used from a dentist to a trampoline park. But I've been working with this industry. And so when you follow these steps, you just run, or you just use your own search phrases. So for example, if I'm giving an example of carpet cleaning services, and if a dentist is listening to me, then he can do dental implants. The only thing you have to do here is focus on your service, focus on your search phrase. If you're trying to rank high under mold removal, then start with mold removal and build from there, whether it's mold remediation, mold inspection, and so on and so forth. So this is for cleaning and restoration industry. You just have to focus on your service, on your search phrases when you begin. And the 90-minute presentation that I mentioned, training, that's totally focused on cleaning and restoration. So if you watch that presentation, everything I talk about is related to our industry.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you. And to John, what kind of response rate is good for a postcard campaign?
For a postcard campaign, it's back to that 3-to-1 question. Yeah, I don't look at as much as the like how many you send out 1,000, how many responses did you get? A little bit of a gauge, but here's the only thing I care about at the end of the day. I spent X amount of money and I got X amount of return. So it will vary. For instance, if you're gonna mail out a big postcard, you'll probably get a better response than a smaller postcard, but the bigger postcard is going to cost you more money. So I'm going to look at 3-to-1 return. For every $1,000 to spend on marketing, I want $3,000 at least in return for that money.
Okay, good, thanks. Sonny, what's the recommendation on uploading valuable content on the website? Should it be daily, weekly, etc.?
That comes all the time. I would say weekly is minimum, but if you can do it more often, then do it more often. Check your competition. See, local SEO is all about beating your competition. So if you're in a city, like I'm in Alpharetta, which is a suburb of Atlanta, if I want to beat my competitors in Atlanta, I first go and check what they are doing. I check their keywords, I check their landing pages, I check their blog posts, I check their Facebook page, their LinkedIn page, and so on. If the person who ranks on top, or let's say the 3 top companies, if they're only adding blog posts once a month, maybe you are in an area which is not so competitive. If they're only adding blog posts once a month, you're good to go with once a week because you're doing better than them. The only way you can beat them is by doing things better than them. If they're doing on weekly basis, you do it twice a weekly. So there's no magic number to it. The more, the better. But make sure it's high quality, it adds value, people learn something from it. Don't just add something for search engines, for Google. Make sure it's focused on humans. So the way it should flow is for people like you, like me, not for search engines.
Good point. Thank you. Over to John, the direct mail campaign seems great for B2C. Any tips specifically for business to business companies?
Sure. Yeah. Well, one, like I did mention, EDDM might be good if you know of certain mail routes that are mostly businesses, like there's a industrial side of town, then EDDM might be pretty good to do. Here's the thing though, and there's a big difference between what I would recommend for businesses versus homes. I would recommend more for businesses to do letters. Postcards really are more for follow-up. Now with EDDM, we can do large postcards, which is, again, the bigger the more you tell, the more you sell. So the bigger postcard that you got, the more response that you're going to get. But bigger postcards tend to be very expensive to do if it's not EDDM, and EDDM isn't specific for commercial unless it happens to be an area of town that's all commercial, right? So you probably want to buy a mailing list for a particular type of company and mail letters, something very attention getting, something that doesn't even look like business mail, something that catches their attention. We do like a golden ticket letter. We'll send a golden ticket actually inside of an envelope, and maybe even in a gold envelope, so they actually open it. And they follow that up with other mailers. You might want to do a postcard here and there with them, but that's going to be better to buy a list and send letters versus postcards normally.
Okay, thank you. Over to Sonny. Going back to Google My Business, can you place a link to your blog in that service?
Sure. So Google My Business, and that's a great question. Google My Business allows you to have one main link, which should be to the homepage of your website. But then again, because you can add a post as often as you want in Google My Business, just like you do in Facebook, that's where you can add a link to your blog post. And people who follow your Google My Business, see, Google My Business is also somewhat like Facebook. You have to remember that. It can have followers. You can talk to people. You can chat with people or your followers. You can add a post. You can upload pictures, just like you do things on Facebook. So if you add a link to one of your blog posts in your Google My Business, post it just like you posted on Facebook. That's essentially sending traffic from your Google My Business page to your blog post. And again, if there's a value in that blog post, your visitors may reshare it just like they do on Facebook, like it, share it. They can do the same with Google My Business as well.
Okay, thanks. John, someone asks simply, what about door hangers?
Sure. I mean, they're a perfect complement to a neighborhood, any neighborhood campaign. Basically, I used to use doorknob hangers even in if we were already marketing to a particular neighborhood, or we were even about to be marketing and my guys were slow for the afternoon. Maybe everybody canceled for whatever reason and one of my crews was not doing anything. Well, here's some doorknob hangers, go hit this neighborhood, that type of thing. So doorknob hangers are a great complement. They probably don't replace EDDM because people don't view them the same way always, but sometimes they view them and they catch attention more. We even have an EDDM that looks like a doorknob hanger, by the way. I mean, it looks just like a doorknob hanger, has the cutout in it, that type of thing. But doorknob hangers can be good. They're a great complement to a neighborhood campaign.
Okay, I have one more question here. How do you find backlinks to your website, Sonny?
There's a secret hack. Well, there's plenty of ways to do it. You can so for your own website, you can find backlinks in your Google Search Console. You need to sign up for Google Search Console, which is a free tool. It used to be called Google Webmaster Tools. Now it's called Google Search Console. So you sign up with that and you can find backlinks there. To search for traffic coming to your site from various different pages, you can use Google Analytics. That's a great tool which is not used. Even though most businesses, most websites will have a Google Analytics tag on them, if I talk to the business owner, he has usually no idea what I'm talking about. So get in your Google Analytics. But then you can also use other free tools like Moz. We use Moz. There's SEMrush. There's BuzzSumo. You can use WordStream. There's quite a bit of tools out there that you can use to find backlinks to your own website and also your competitors. I always like to spy on competitors.
All right. Well, thank you very much for answering those questions. And thank you to everyone in the audience who asked questions. Before we finish for today, I'd like to thank CleanFax's parent association, ISSA, the Worldwide Cleaning Industry Association. And one more special thank you to our two expert presenters, Sonny Ahuja and John Braun. Thank you guys so much for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks. Yeah, thank you for having me.
Everyone in the audience today will receive an email with a link to the video recording by the end of this week. And we will also be posting a link to the webinar on our website, cleanfax.com. Thank you to everyone for attending, and you can look for future CleanFax webinars later in the year. And hope you have a great day. Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.
Thank you.